In this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how much dividend income I made in the month of May from a $79,000 dividend portfolio. And you can see here, we're currently looking at my investment dashboard, and we'll be looking at a few different other things like my dividend dashboard, dividend calendar, daily dividend calendar, and we'll also be looking at some portfolio projections to see how my portfolio will look like in the future. So if you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet, then you can join my Patreon page at the link in the description and become a member with a community of other dividend investors. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now we can see the S&P 500 shows actually had a pretty decent month in the month of May, up around 3.25%. But if you're a dividend investor, you probably saw your dividend portfolio drop by just a little bit. Now, why is this? If the S&P 500 did pretty well, why did dividend stocks drop so much? Well, this is actually something I talked about in my upcoming monthly newsletter, which you can join for free at the link in the description. But you can see here, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Tesla, and Nvidia year-to-date indexed are up around 44%, while the S&P 500 is up around 10%. But if you don't include these 7 companies right here, we can see the S&P 500 would only be up 1%. So yes, the S&P 500 did have a decent month in the month of May, but really that was just from a few companies. For the most part, a lot of the stocks were either flat or dropped a little bit. But if you look at my portfolio, I'll go ahead and zoom in and we'll begin to break this down a little bit. You can see I'm still up a decent percentage on my portfolio. With dividends included, I'm up a little over 7%, even with my portfolio dropping a little bit over the past month. If we come down here, we can see, I'll zoom in just a little bit more. My current allocation is showing around 15% cash with 85.1% in stocks. Total holdings currently sitting at around 34. Now, I do expect to continue to reduce this position a little bit more. I hope to get it closer to 30 and then long term, maybe a little bit closer to 25. Now, if we come here, you can see my cost and market value chart. This is basically a way to see how your investments have performed versus their costs and their current market value. So you can see positions like Microsoft and SCHD. Those are some of my larger positions. You can see the cost versus market value, but more importantly, we also want to be able to see the growth of each of my positions. And one position that really took off this month was AVGO. I was already up over 30% on this position, but over the past month, I'm now up over 57.42% on this position. And I actually have quite a few positions that have done pretty well as of late. You can see my Coca-Cola position up over 26%, Microsoft around 25%, SJM 25%, we have Starbucks around 27%, we have JP Morgan around 27%, Visa around 20.8, Lowe's 11.7, we have Caterpillar, I'm up around 18.33, and complete transparency, like always, I do have some losers as well. You can see I'm down a little bit on Regions Financials, down on Verizon, down on 3M, down on Walgreens. Now, all these positions are actually pretty small positions in my personal dividend portfolio, so while they are decent losses, the dollar amount is not very much. And then, of course, MPW. This is a position that is actually less than 1% of my entire dividend portfolio. I added a very small amount and it has dropped quite a bit since then. I might release a new update on MPW at some point in the future. So now let's start to dig into my current portfolio's allocation. And the two things you'll notice right away, I have 2 very large positions. The first is SCHD. This is my largest position at around 22.5% of my personal dividend portfolio. And then we have Microsoft, a company that is obviously not an ETF. This is an individual company we're talking about, making up over 13.4% of my personal dividend portfolio. And a large part of this comes from some massive gains that I've seen from the company over the past month or so. Again, if we scroll down, like I already pointed out, I'm up around 25% on this position. So a lot of this allocation comes purely from the gains that I've seen from Microsoft. Now, I'm completely fine with Microsoft making up this large of a position in my personal dividend portfolio because this is a company that I truly believe in long term. I think they'll see some serious share price appreciation over the next decade and continue to increase the amount they pay out in dividends over time, making it a great pick for my portfolio. But other than that, you can see my portfolio is fairly well diversified. We have a decently large position with Realty Income at around 6%. We have a couple of ETFs that I currently plan on moving into SCHD at some point. Both of these are around 6 to 7% as well. But other than that, again, fairly well diversified. Let's go ahead and back out of this and we'll scroll down. And now I need to look at my allocation by individual industry. Again, you can see ETFs, my largest position at around 36%. Then we have technology at around 20.5%. We have financials real estate at around 10.7%. And then financials at around 10.4%. Consumer defensive around 9%. And then a couple of other smaller positions here as well. Now, the other things that I have on my investment dashboard are my future portfolio outlook, but that's something we will come back and look at a little bit later. But the next thing I want to look at is going to be my dividend dashboard. I'll zoom out just a little bit so we can see everything, and let's start breaking this down. Now, the first thing that everybody wants to see is how much dividend income did I make in the month of May, and you can see right here, it was $158.53. If we look at this chart, you can see my historical monthly dividend income obviously trending in the right direction. When I started tracking this, you can see every now and then I'd have a decent month at around $70, but then there would be a huge drop off. But my highest month of dividend income now is over $200. It was in March. I made around $216. Now, what's really cool about this is my average monthly dividends is now projected to be around $228, which is higher than any month that I've ever had. So that's really exciting. We can see my expected yearly dividend income at around $2,736. My all-time dividend income received almost at $2,600, and the current dividend yield for my personal dividend portfolio sitting at 3.55%. And again, my portfolio value obviously trending upwards over time as I continue to see gains and contribute. Now, dividend income by industry is something that I track as well. I think this is something a lot of dividend investors don't track, but it's really important because you want to understand where most of your dividend income is coming from, and you don't want to be too exposed to any one industry. Again, we can see most of my dividend income comes from ETFs, but a decent bit also comes from real estate and consumer defensive. And then we also have financials making up around 14.1% of my personal dividend portfolio. Now, only 9.6% of my dividends come from technology, which is interesting because when we looked at my investment dashboard, we can see technology actually made up around 20.5%. That's because a lot of those companies within the tech industry pay lower dividends, but they have higher dividend growth rates. So I think long term, this will still fit in pretty nicely into my personal dividend portfolio. Now, I also have a chart for dividend yield on cost, and basically all we need to take away is I do have a pretty strong focus on dividend growth companies, but I also have a couple of higher yielding positions as well. We can see JEPI is one of those positions, but it is a very small position in my dividend portfolio. Really, it's just a hedge against downward and sideways markets, as it's only around 2% of my personal dividend portfolio. Now, the last chart that we are going to glance at is my dividend income by each individual stock. You can see SCHD is providing by far the most dividend income at around $670 per year, but we also have Realty Income at around $256 and Altria Group at around $228. And once again, other than that, fairly well diversified. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the positions that I added to my personal portfolio this month. Now, none of the positions that I added are new positions. These were existing positions in my personal dividend portfolio. I just added capital to them, but they were Texas Instruments, Altria Group, Realty Income, Johnson & Johnson, and then I added more capital to SCHD. All of these positions were positions that throughout the month I felt like were trading at a good value. So for example, if we look at Texas Instruments, we can see over the past month they've actually jumped up around 6.8%, but if we look at the past 6 months, you can see there were opportunities. I added capital to this position at around $162 per share, so it's actually seen a nice bounce back just over the past couple of weeks, which is great to see, but honestly, it's more because I believe in the company long term. I'm not looking for short-term price fluctuations where I can take advantage. I want to see great companies that I believe in long term that are trading at good values, and that's the reasons that I added these companies to my dividend portfolio. Now let's go ahead and talk about the companies that I received dividends from. And to look at this, usually I'm going to look at my dividend calendar. I think this is one of the best ways to be able to track your dividend income over time, because it allows you to see how much you've made from each position, how much you've made each month, but more importantly, you can see your dividend growth over every single month. So I'll zoom in and show an example. You can see we have Realty Income right here. This tracker allows us to see how much it pays out in dividends every single month and how much we're receiving. And because I reinvest dividends and invest into companies that increase the amount they pay out in dividends, you can see every single month the amount I receive from Realty Income is increasing regardless if I buy more of this company. So back in January of 2022, I was receiving around $5.83 from this company, but my most recent dividend payment in the month of May was around $18 from Realty Income. So let's go ahead and start breaking down the dividend payments I'll receive. I'll zoom out just a little bit so we can see this better. And it looks like I received around $16.55 from EPD. I received $18 from Realty Income Corporation, $38.13 from OHI, that's a REIT, $22.47 from Verizon, $4.34 from Starbucks. We have $13.77 from Lowe's, $9.94 from JEPI, $11.28 from Texas Instruments, $4.85 from Caterpillar. That's a stock I like a lot. I've seen a lot of capital appreciation from them. And then my last dividend payment was around $16.82, which was from Jefferies Financial. That's a pretty big dividend payment considering my last dividend payment was around $3, but that's actually a position that I've added to over the past couple of months. Now, the next thing we'll look at is my daily dividend calendar. This is just a simple way to see exactly what days I was paid dividends and how much those dividend payments were. So you can see on May 1st, around $23. May 4th, $9.94. The 10th and 12th, both pretty decent days at around 14 and 16. Then we had a very high day on May 15th. I received $56.10. That's pretty close to my highest day of dividend income all time. It would be my highest day in 2022, which is pretty cool. Now on May 16th, around $11.28. The 18th and 19th were lower days, but still dividend days. And then on May 26th, I received $21.16 in dividend income. So overall, a pretty decent month. Now, the last thing that I do want to talk about is my portfolio projections. And again, that's something that I have here on my investment dashboard, but I want to dig into it a little bit deeper because the long-term goal for my dividend portfolio is to one day be able to live off of dividend income. So I'll go ahead and zoom out just a little bit so you can see how this basically works. You can see I have my starting portfolio size, my dividend yield for my portfolio, 3.5% is my target, and then I have to plug in some assumptions. So I'm assuming that I'm going to be contributing around $2,500 every single month to my dividend portfolio, which I know is a very high amount, but I'm trying very hard to be aggressive with my investments. Now, I'm also assuming a price growth rate of 7% and a dividend growth rate of 7% for my personal dividend portfolio. Both of those projections are actually somewhat conservative when you look at the long-term returns of some funds such as SCHD. But once I plugged in all of these variables, we can plug out over 30 years what my dividend portfolio will look like. And typically what we do is we look at this by looking at my future portfolio outlook, but we can actually dig into this a little bit deeper by looking at my live off of dividend analysis. So basically I have a cost of living, which I'm projecting to be around $4,250 a month or $50,000 a year. I then apply my inflation projection, and this black line represents my cost of living. So when I click on live off dividends, we need to be able to see when this red line crosses over my black line because that indicates at what point I can live off of dividends. So if we come over here, we can start to scroll down and see exactly at what point I can live off of dividend income. And it looks like with my current projections, I'll zoom in just a little bit, in around 18 and a half years, I'll be able to live off of dividend income. My total contributions will be around $626,000. And at that point, my account value could be over $2.1 million. So it's very exciting to see what can be possible in just an 18-year time period. Now, if you're more interested in what it takes to be able to live off of dividend income, I'll go ahead and link a couple of videos that I've created to show you how to do this in the description down below. So be sure to check those out. I put a lot of work into those videos and I really think they'll help you out. But overall, there you go. That is how much dividend income I made in the month of May from a $79,000 account. If you'd like to be able to use this spreadsheet, then you can head over to my Patreon page and download it there. You can also join a community of like-minded dividend investors. Seeking Alpha is also currently running a 14-day free trial, and my link in the description, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.